the way I'd answer that is actually in the first instance it's quite difficult. I think it's about trying to find a hook for the consumer to engage into. So for young drivers, higher risk drivers, that hook is quite clearly price. So I can get a cheaper premium as a result of buying a telematics product. It's hard because it will be less about price when you get into particularly old and more mass market areas, because premiums are much lower. So the incentive of a 10% discount for an older driver is less than it is for a younger driver. The amount will be less. So I think it's about trying to understand the hook. But in saying that, not all older drivers are lower premium. So there will be segments of the market where distressed drivers, people that have had previous accidents or motoring convictions that are now being charged more for their driving, or they might live in areas of countries where insurers generally risk them worse than other areas because there might be high theft areas or might be lots of personal injury claims happening in those areas. So it might be about trying to identify where there are opportunities, either in segments or areas where actually premium is slightly higher than it would be for the norm, and actually, as an insurer, tactically going after those segments with telematics, because that's an opportunity for them to demonstrate that they're either a reformed character or actually just because I live in that area, I don't drive like everybody else that is in, or I'm not going to make those claims that everyone else does. I actually think it's probably a bit overplayed, the Big Brother piece. I think more of a challenge is regulation, in my experience. So if I look at markets like Scandinavia or North America or other parts of Europe, there's the regulators, the governing bodies, the authorities that are ultimately licensing insurance companies to do various things are not yet comfortable with the idea of using telematics data for insurance purposes. And that's because they like to see that there's evidence to say that this sort of data is relevant for risk. So, and then you're in a bit of a chicken and egg scenario, that because you're not going to get that evidence until you start to collect the data. So, it's trying to encourage the authorities to a degree that actually, we have to take a leap of faith. Look what's happening in other markets. We are building evidence in other markets. We should be able to apply that thinking to this local market. That's not to say that consumers aren't completely oblivious to the fact of Big Brother. There is still a concern. I think consumers, particularly younger consumers, are much more comfortable with the idea of data being collected from them. Whether that still applies to insurance companies collecting data from them, then there might still be an issue there, because there is a trust concern in certain countries that consumers have with insurers. If I give you more information, you're just going to do something bad with that information, and my premium's going to increase next year as a result. So it's upon us to demonstrate the value back to the customer. What is it that you're going to get out of agreeing to pass that data to us, agreeing to engage in a proposition where you're downloading an app or you're installing a box. And if that's price, that's great. If it can be priced, that's great. Or if it's trying to find some other advantage that we can give back to the customer, then that will help us overcome any concern that might exist. So firstly, I think this is a fantastic event. So what I like about this event, and this is the first time I've been here, is the number of insurers that are attending. Often with events, you get a lot of vendors, and that's great. You get to learn about different solutions and capability in the market. But I guess the interesting thing about this event is, because there are insurers, you get the opportunity to talk to like-minded people that are working in the same business, that are dealing with the same challenges, trying to overcome a lot of the same questions. And a lot of that is, well, how do we take telematics to more of the market? Because we're working in certain segments, depending on which country that you're working from. But we're all trying to think of ways around how do we get expose more of our customers to this great thing called telematics or UBI. So being at this event or events like this, where you can actually sit down, have a chat face to face, You know, you don't get the opportunity to do that day to day. Yes, you can pick up the phone, but actually being surrounded by like-minded people, you know, there's real value in having that conversation.